So this is me live bidding on a PSA 10 Final Fantasy VIII card-ass vending Squall trading card. The bidding is over $100 US. Now before this auction, I had zero intention of buying this card. I didn't know this card existed. I have never seen this card before. This was purely going to be an impulse purchase because Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite games ever made, and this card looked kinda cool. But as the bidding was reaching up to almost $150 here, it finally dawned on me. I don't need this trading card. $150 is also kind of a lot of money to just throw away on something random. And while yes, the card is cool, right? Final Fantasy VIII, Squall, PSA 10, that's a nice looking trading card right there. The truth is, the card would probably just be placed on a shelf or in a box somewhere, and then it would just be forgotten about. The card doesn't have some place in my collection, nor does it further my collecting goals. Like I said, I simply don't need it. And it may sound kind of stupid, but this is actually a hard thing to come to grips with as a collector. Especially if you're collecting a lot of video games or for a lot of different consoles or collecting across categories like video games, trading cards, sports cards, whatever it is. Buying stuff is so incredibly easy. Also, for this video, I had to set up the most iconic video game character of all time. Shout out, Lara Croft. But buying stuff is so incredibly easy. With video games especially, if you're going out hunting and you're searching all the time, you can always find something that's cheap that you're just gonna pick up for your collection because it's a good deal. Not something that you necessarily even want, it's just something that's cheap, it's right in front of you, and I mean, it's a video game, right? But the truth is, a lot of the stuff that's picked up under those kind of circumstances is just junk purchases. It's something that you don't need and something that you don't necessarily even want. It is purely being purchased because it's right in front of you and the price is acceptable. You're out hunting and you stumble across some PS2 games for $7.99 each, so you bought them. You're watching an auction and something is cool, so you buy it. These are what I would classify as junk purchases. And I'm not talking about just buying something cheap that you're gonna go resell, because of course, right? If you see something that's a great deal or so far underpriced that you can go and turn a profit, go and do it. And if you're gonna do that, you have to actually do that, right? Because a lot of people say they're going to resell stuff and then they just end up keeping it because reselling actually does take some time and effort to do. But we're not talking about those kind of purchases. We're talking about stuff that you buy that you have no intention of reselling, stuff that you're actually going to keep for your collection. And I've been collecting for about 15 years now, and I can't even tell you how many junk purchases I've made. It's literally endless, right? Too many to count. Especially back when I was newer to the hobby, my goal was just to acquire stuff. My goal was just to buy games, right? I wanted to buy anything and everything, right? It did not matter what it was. If the price was cheap, if the price was acceptable, I was gonna buy it. We're talking shovelware, Wii, Game Boy Color, original sports games on Xbox or Genesis. Like, it did not matter. I wanted it all. Stuff like that is like bottom of the barrel of what I'm talking about with junk purchases. This is stuff that you really can't even resell if you wanted to. And no shame to anyone doing that right now, right? I get it. Like I said, I used to be the same way. I still have tons of stuff in my game collection where it's like, oh man, I really shouldn't have bought a lot of this stuff. It is what it is. It's how a lot of people start in this hobby. It's how a lot of people discover new stuff. It's a natural progression almost. But as you stay in this hobby for a while, you should naturally progress how you acquire what you seek after, what your actual goals are. Like, you might want to go after a full N64 set of games, or maybe you want to buy all the games from your childhood. You should develop an actual goal of what you want to go after with your collecting. Stuff that you actually do want to own, stuff that you do want to have on your shelves, planned purchases. And some of that stuff is going to be expensive, especially if you're going after retro stuff, especially if you're going after CIB or even factory seal. You will have to save up for some of this stuff, you will have to budget for some of this stuff, and depending on what you're going after, the odds of you finding it for super cheap while out hunting, it's very, very low. Especially in 2024, if you're looking for any specific game and all you're doing is grad sailing and thrifting, the odds of finding that one specific title are extremely low. The thing with this budgeting and saving and waiting to acquire the one single game is that buying in this hobby is so addicting in itself, is that most people will just spend all of their budget on these junk purchases, buying whatever's presented to them, rather than waiting or saving for that one thing you actually want. Rather than buying a single game for $100, many people just buy 10 games for $100 and then complain that that single game is $100 and they can't afford it. Or they'll talk about one game that sells for $300 and how they could never justify spending that much money, that's not worth it, but then behind them on their shelves, they'll have 300 games worth $5,000 and they hardly ever touch them, right? Most hobby participants, and this isn't just a video video game thing, but most hobby participants truly value going for the quantity over quality approach. It's far easier to justify in our brains that having more stuff or a higher quantity of games is more worth it than buying a single game. More stuff equals better, right? But the truth is, buying all of this junk is what is absolutely going to keep yourself from buying any of the actual expensive stuff or the stuff that you actually want to get for your collection. All of these small junk purchases absolutely keep you away from your actual collecting goals. More and more as I continue to be in this hobby and I continue to get older and realize the practicality of having a massive collection, or I guess the lack of practicality of simply having a ton of stuff, the more I find myself gravitating towards a far more curated collection. At this point, I personally would far rather have the one game worth $1,000 rather than 50 games worth $20 each. I'm still trying to get rid of a bunch of PS2, Wii, original Xbox games, and it sucks having to try and sell them. Frankly, no one wants them. And it also hurts to just trade that stuff into a video game store at like 40% price charting. None of it feels great, right? You spend so much time buying this stuff, appreciating it, and then when you try to move it on, you don't just want to give it away. You really do get hit with the endowment effect. The games mean much more to me because I own them than anyone else, you know? And I know everyone's going to be at a different point in their collecting journey, but this is something that everyone really should consider sooner rather than later. I know how fun it is to just buy cheap games and get that dopamine hit. I'll be completely honest with you guys. I have a couple of Digimon cards right here. I paid $15 each for these. I don't need these. These are absolute junk. If I sell them, I'll be lucky to get my money back. I really don't even care about War Growlmon and Gold Veedramon. Like, these are just a bad purchase. This was dumb. This was a waste of my money. So I fully understand that it is just fun to buy stuff, but it is far more beneficial long term to actually budget, save up, or just buy the stuff that you actually want, that you actually care about. Buying the stuff for your collection that you actually want is so much more rewarding and fulfilling long term than just buying whatever you find at the garage sale. And that list can grow and change over time as you discover new stuff, and you can still go out hunting and you can still have some fun junk purchases, but actually budget your junk purchases. Don't allow that type of stuff to actually take away from what you want to buy. If you want a copy of Rule of Rose on PS2 or Earthbound on Super Nintendo, if that is your grail, then you can do it. Most people engaging with this hobby can budget, can save up to buy something like that. It does require a conscious effort though, and it does require you to not purchase other junk. And we can go into a bigger talk about vice taxes and cutting out other expenses like Uber Eats or alcohol, but for right now, I think it's enough to just say, really watch how much junk you purchase. Really watch just how many games you buy because you found it for $6.99 and on price charts it's $14, so that's a great deal. Buying a lot of those games, anything that you'd really consider filler in your collection, buying enough of that stuff absolutely tears through your budget. And in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, when your goals change, maybe when you change how you collect, the vast majority of that stuff is going to become a burden to you, rather than something that you're really happy you own. I really do believe that most video game collectors can budget, can save up to buy almost anything they want in this hobby. Within reason, right? Say a $1,000 ceiling. Most people can budget and save for a $1,000 video game. It's just, do you want that or do you want all of this? And the vast majority of people choose to have a whole bunch of stuff rather than the one game that really matters to them. Just some things for you guys to think about. Let me know your own thoughts on junk purchases. Let me know how you have decided what you do buy versus what you don't buy. Say thank you to every single patron who helps support the channel as well as the YouTube members. I can't do this without you guys. Hit the like button before you go, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.